We will start in a minute or two. I've just got a couple of points of housekeeping to go through first. First of all, to introduce myself to those of you who don't know me, I am Dr. Emily Chanowski, and I am the chair of today's panel. I'm also the director of operations for the annual forum and the organizer for this year's event. And it's a really great pleasure to welcome all of these panelists here today. It's such an interesting panel. I was really looking forward to this because this is exactly what we want to be talking about. You know, we want practical examples of community building across the region. And as I said, I'm really excited to hear what you're all working on. Before we start, just to let you know, the chat is the single speech bubble at the bottom of your toolbar, and what we would very much like is if you want to introduce yourselves or say nice things about the speakers, please put them in the chat section with the single speech bubble. But if you have questions, please do put them in the Q&A section. So that's the icon at the bottom with 2 speech bubbles, and that's where we'll go to look for questions at the end of the event. We will be going through all the panelists first and having the questions at the end, but just in case you're worried you might forget, please do put all the questions in the Q&A at any point of the proceedings. Separately, if you're wishing to promote the event or talk about the event on social media, please do use the hashtag #F4M so we can track and engage with you. Likewise, as many of you will know, we have established a new Slack community for the annual forum, but also for the Forum for Open Research going forwards. And we will be maintaining that for the whole community across the region for everyone who is engaging in open science. So it is worth registering if you haven't already. As a delegate, you have received an email, but also details are available on our main website. Now, without further ado, it is my great pleasure to hand over to Menna and Doaa and Yasmeen, who are going to talk to us about their open science community, which is in its very early stages, and we're really excited to hear what you're all working on in Egypt. So if one of you would like to share your screen, Menna, you're on mute.
Yes,
actually, all 3 of you are on mute.
I will share it.
So it's down at the bottom. If you just choose select screen share and then the slides.
Everyone can see my screen?
Yes, we can now. Brilliant. Thank you very much. I'll just turn off my video and mute myself and hand over to you guys.
Okay. Okay, let's start. Hi, Emily, and hi, everyone. It's nice to be with you today in this panel for the 2nd annual Forum for Open Research in MENA region. Today, I will speak with my team, Yasmeen and Doaa, about Open Science Community Initiative in Egypt. Explore the possibilities of open science. It's our slogan. First, I want to introduce my team. Doaa Abdelkader, project lead and librarian for research service at British University Library in Egypt. Yasmeen Ashraf, marketing specialist and lecture assistant at Department of Library and Information Science, Faculty of Art, Cairo University. And Menna Emam, project admin assistant and researcher at Arab Collective Company. Our agenda for today, will start with introduction, open science definition, open science communities around the world, open science community Egypt journey. So let's start with the definition of open science. According to UNESCO recommendation for Open Science 2021, the open science is defined as an exclusive construct that bring together various movements and practices that aim to make multilingual scientific knowledge openly valuable, accessible, and reusable for all. That's increased collaboration and information exchange for benefits of science and society. Actually, the open science builds up the following key pillars: open scientific knowledge, open science infrastructure, science communication, open engagement of societal actors, and open dialogue with other knowledge systems. Now, I will leave you with my colleague, Yasmeen, to continue the presentation with you. You can start, Yasmeen.
Dr. Yasmeen, you're muted.
Okay. Thank you, Menna. Hello, everyone. I will continue with the next point, open science communities around the world. The open science community can be described as a network for researchers, students, or even community stakeholders interested in open science. For newcomers and experienced colleagues alike to interact and learn from each other regarding open science. It's a bottom-up learning community and can include members from all career stage and all disciplines. The purpose from open science communities, the main goal is to make open science the norm in research. There are many researchers who acknowledge that open science is good, important, and valuable. But there are still many of them who are unwilling to endorse open science practice, or they simply don't have the tools and or don't have the knowledge of where do we start open science communities facilities this. In general, the open science community has 4 goals: connect with and engage researchers so they can learn about open science. It's basically a platform where we can learn from each other and where we can also discuss and our thoughts in applying open science practice. Inspiring and enabling the adoption of open science practice, shaping institutional policies and devising organization on how to promote open science. Finally, promoting interaction between academia and society. We have 32 open science communities around the world, and Arab world till now has 2 communities, Saudi Arabia and Egypt. Now I will move mic to my colleague Doaa. Start, Doaa.
Thank you, Yasmeen and Menna. I will take you now with our final point, open science community journey. Actually, open science launching in the 21st of September 2023, and our community actually, we start training with open seats in February 2023. We take a mentorship program and we learn how to build a community and how to make more engagements in Egypt. So we took this program and we present our final presentation in June 2023. Then Open Science Community in Egypt is a part of international network of open science and scholarship communities that aims to promote open science in Egypt and has many goals, including raising awareness of open science in Egypt and the main concepts, also providing training and resources on open science, promoting the use of open science in research and education, elevate the profile of researchers and cultivate a thriving open science community to enhance the visibility of their work and promote greater efficiency in their research efforts. Also, the Open Science Community Initiative is has a significant step forward in line with Egypt Vision 2023. The initiative has the potential to make a real difference in the way that science and is conducted and communicated in Egypt. Our vision is to collaborate with allies in Egypt to elevate the profile of researchers and cultivate a thriving open science community. And our mission is to enhance the visibility of the researchers' work and promote greater efficiency in their research efforts. And our future plans is to raising researcher awareness of everything related to open science and its practice by providing workshops in various specialization. We welcome all collaborating parts from scientific institutions, and we working to create a scientific community connected, interested in open science. Our launching event was in 21st of September, as I said, and we have good engagement actually. We have an online launching on Zoom, and the community who engaged with us was very active, very excited, and we received a good feedback actually from this event. And our first workshop, Introduction to Open Science, was in 16 of October 2023, with the collaboration with DataSite, as Mohammed Mustafa is the representative from from DataSite. Sorry, he present the resistant identifiers and how it make more engagement in the open science community. And we introduce the open science community concepts and the main pillars of open science communities. And we discussed all the main pillars, the main 4 pillars and 8 pillars. We have good engagement in this workshop, and we have many in our plans. Here's we finish our presentation. Thank you all. This is our social media platforms and our website. Also, you can check our GitHub repository. We have the code of conduct on GitHub and the license. You can check it on our GitHub repository. Also, you can check our presentations and Zenodo. We put everything there. Thank you all. And if you have any questions, you can.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. That was absolutely fascinating, and it's so interesting to see how things have progressed since the discussions that we had last year. So thank you very much. It's time for our next panelist, Dr. Antonia Akanindo Bamidele. Forgive me if I have mispronounced that. I'm afraid I'm running late. I was trying to learn everyone's name pronunciations before, but there's been like 200 people over the last 3 days and I'm running a little behind on it. And her paper is on community building, but a different angle of community building. And I'm very much looking forward to hearing this paper, and I know you all are joining us today as well and seeing how it compares. So I will mute myself once again and hand over.
Okay, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to present my research. And hi everyone, good afternoon from Bahrain. And I will be speaking on building sustainable workplace communities of practice across diverse multinational contexts within the the Arabian Gulf region, which is basically like the GCC region. So I know sometimes we're like, why are we using GCC and at the same time using Arabian Gulf region? It kind of mean the same thing, but I just wanted a bit coined in a different way. I hope my screen is okay. Can I continue?
Yes, please do. Everything's perfect.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. All right, so going on to my presentation, I would just talk about in terms of the overview of my study. So this is actually related to, I think I keep having that coming up. Okay, so it has to do with like looking first at the higher education council, higher education institutions within the region. And we know that when it comes to higher education, we are targeting probably those young students or adults who are learning to specialize in a particular field or a particular degree over the years. And we realize that most of the time their work do not just cover only education, but percentage of it goes to research. So we as lecturers or as educators, we teach students how to do research. And what happens from our side if we are not able to do the research or have access to research, and how do we impact to the other generation? So my perspective was more like looking at it in terms of that direction of how the higher education and how it impacts research communities across the region. So looking at localization, internalization, all these coins and all these terms have really brought a synergy that exists between the global and local forces. So we teach students not just within the region, but how they can impact the world at large, and how they can stand at the same pace with students from other countries. And acceptance that we have welcomed over the years in the region promotes research culture, which is something that probably we still need to talk about, and we still need to, think about innovative ways we can promote research within the region. And again, to consider ourselves as agents of change and as stakeholders. So we have a path to make sure that we are able to conduct research that we can actually impact to our students and to the next generation. So my study started with a background of just, an overview of the population within the region, looking at the 6 GCC countries where we have Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, UAE, Qatar, and Oman. And the general population, as you can see from the data, it shows that the statistics have revealed that we have quite a large number of foreign workers that are coming to the region to work compared to the local population. And part of that population shows the labor force. So we have the labor force, and that also accounts to a large number of people who work within the region. I think probably the only difference might be in Saudi Arabia, where you have quite only a few number compared to the other parts of the other countries. Now, narrowing down to universities, so far we have about 275 universities that have been established within the region as of 2020. Okay, this was like the recent statistic that I got. I couldn't get anything earlier, although sometimes this is the part of my research. Getting data or getting access to information can be very, challenging, and that's something that probably can be bridged over the years. And as you can see, the number of universities that we have in Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and that amounts to 275. Moving on, the general statistics now reveals as of 2018, the number of faculty members in these different countries. So in Bahrain, we have a total of 2,056, and you see there's a high margin in Oman, which has about 16,244 as of 2018. And compared to KSA, which is Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, where you have about 85,409 faculty members. Now, we know that most universities within the region, they have research. It's part of what you do within the university as a lecturer. You have to have some hours where you do research. So if we use this force, and this is as of 2018, now we're in 2023, so maybe the numbers would have increased. This is actually before COVID, so there's no data post-COVID now to see if there have been changes in terms of the statistics. Maybe we have more, or we have lower numbers, based on the pandemic and all the, changes that happen in the workplace. But as such, the last statistics that shows for 2018, Now, what's quite interesting to me, and my purpose of bringing the data was really to find out about, some of the challenges we face when it comes to research within the region. And I would just mention, okay, sometimes we get most of the information from outside, and sometimes it can be difficult. So lack of adequate research integration within the curriculum, within that, the position of research is not really given as it should compared to like teaching or other kind of work that we do within the region. Research collaborations and mentorship is something that I find we probably need more work. I joined some of the sections earlier, and they talked about collaborations, and that is something that we really need to talk about and think of how ways we can really make it possible. And access to research data, that is one of the issues that I realized from my study, as well as recognition of research output. Now, signal for my studies that it promotes, the idea for all my discussion would be, how do we promote inclusion? How do we promote collaborations among ourselves as researchers, not just in the terms of teaching, but this time in terms of how we take out our research, or how we market our research, and how we, talk about the research work that we have going on. Sustainable knowledge generation and sharing. Now, I realize when it comes to sharing knowledge, data sharing, information, probably is something that we, still find it difficult to accept. I've had scenarios where so someone have told me that, I cannot put my publication out there because maybe somebody would take my idea. There is this idea of, if I share my research, I might not, get the 100% recognition for that research. And that, makes people just say, okay, I'll stick my information to myself, and I don't want to talk about what I'm doing. And that really means, exposure of the research. And another way is the promotion of open research, like we're talking about open access, open research is something that we really need to promote, and we really need to bring it out there for others to benefit. So my research questions were basically, one, to talk about what kind of sustainable mutual engagements in the area of communities of practices, and how can higher educations promote research communities, and what impact would research collaborations and data sharing have within the region. So my theoretical framework was basically looking at communities of practice, and I tend to align towards what Love and Venger in 1991 said about, communities of practice, where they said to describe an activity system that includes individuals who are united in action, in actions that action that has for them and for the larger collective action. So in other words, people who engage on an ongoing basis in some common endeavor, and I tag this endeavor as research. So we coming together for one purpose, not because, of course, we can come together, talk about our teaching styles, our learning styles, but this time, how we conduct research, how we get data, how we present our results, how we talk about, things that are beneficial to the region. And it covers social grouping and shared social practices, again, knowledge generation. And so my focus basically was in terms of now mutual engagements. How do we engage with research? And like mutual engagement covers this time the new opportunities that we have, like what kind of opportunities can we use for interactions according to Anglo 2016, and the collaborations or interactions does not really have to be only online, but also physical. So you can have the transition of having online research communities of practice, and at the same time have live or physical meetings where we have exchange, like forums. Supportive organizational culture, where we have systems that support research, systems that fund research, systems that project research, and institutions also that put research on the map. And we've seen in some countries across the world where when they have research going on, there's something about community, they project the research a lot. They give support, or they talk about it. It's in the society, it's everywhere in the system. Like research takes a high volume. So how do we get that supportive organizational culture where we enhance or we encourage knowledge sharing? And also in terms of mentorship, exploring conceptualization, where according to Campbell et al. 2020 2009, where they talked about an expert and a novice. So we have advanced researchers, and how do we include early researchers, early research scholars, so that they can also, there's this transition of knowledge or research information from one generation to the next generation, which covers the mentor-mentee relationship, like we see also across the other parts of the world. So again, looking at commercial practice from Eckert, 2006, King 2014, Wenger 1998. Although they mentioned 3 dimensions, but my focus is basically on mutual engagement, relationships that bind members together. So what binds us together in this case will be the focus of research. And now looking at the themes that I want to talk about, and I think I've talked about the researchers, the relationships that bind us together, shared mutual engagement, same occupational community. So it focuses back again to us coming together as researchers that want to talk about the region or within the MENA region, what goes on research, how can we collaborate and work to make the research work that we do here, outside the world, like everyone should know about what we're doing as researchers within the region. And in view of my discussion, so I had some studies which I mentioned in terms of looking at different scholars in terms of what they have done, how they talked about diversity, inclusion, and equality within research, and the promotion that it brings. So my first thing was to look at research as a mutual engagement community of practice. So again, like I said earlier, the higher education remains the less developed in research. So we noticed that most of the time, research does not have a key, it's not like taken as the key focus. It's one of the things that they do, but in terms of bringing research out is something that we need to project. And some universities, they focus not on research-based projects, but either project-based or EDP. So it's something that they do, especially for engineering students. They focus more on the practical and not really in terms of the research writing or how to do data collection and all the processes that are involved, which is something that, there's a gap between what we do over here and what is done in other developed or high-ranking universities across the world. Low research and development expenditure. So in terms of financing and funding for research, that's something that, it's still not being, should I say, it's still being processed, not to the level that we expect. And near absence of innovative research or cutting edge. So most of the time, most of the groundbreaking, cutting edge research that we know across the world, very minimal or very few information, it's from the region, but it's really something that comes from the outside that we inculcate into the region. Low and poor quality research output. So again, it depends on the focus. If the focus is there for research, of course, the faculty members, the lecturers, the professors, the doctors would put in more for the research, and we'll have a lot of, a lot of information leaving the region, talking about what we're doing over here, projecting what we're doing over here, the findings we have, the studies we have, and all that. The other negative thing is that negative attitudes towards language sharing, knowledge sharing, which I've discussed earlier, and inadequate appreciation for the importance of scholarly impact and citations. So again, sometimes realize that citations is one of the things that either some universities use right now for, should I say, for promotion or for ranking or for renewal of contract in terms of, the scholarly output on research. So inadequate appreciation in terms of not just within the university, but within other universities. My key implication or recommendation or solution which I tag will be engage in research on higher education in order to find better alternatives for further growth and development of higher education in GCC countries. So we need to engage in higher education research. We need to know what's going on. We need to know what others are talking about. We need to collaborate more. We need to talk about our research forums like what we have now continuously, where we can collaborate and share data. So again, the second point was research collaborations and data sharing. In answer to the question, poor focus on research and lack of rewards, which I've mentioned earlier, lack of high quality data collection and analysis systems. So again, when it comes to data collection, data storage, repository, analysis, softwares, all the things that normally build research, we find that either some universities are not so keen on that, or they find it above their budget. Okay, there's something that's very expensive and something that, you know, are they able to afford, especially maybe for private universities in the region. So those are some of the things that might affect the high quality of research in terms of going out there to get the software or to get, you know, a lot of resource materials, access to data, access to resources, and all that. Increase the number of budgets and incentives for research, but not the quality of publications. So again, what about the quality? Is it just about conducting research or looking at the quality of this research? Is it research that we do here that top-ranking universities can use, or they can find out research what's useful within their own studies over there? And also the crave for scopers, which maybe I've realized some universities, they put that as, you know, you have to get to that publication where you can your work can be indexed, or your work can be cited in scopers. More teaching hours can affect the quality of research in terms of the time. So when faculty members are assigned to a lot of classes, doing a lot of other admin work, it slows down the time for research, because research takes time, it needs a lot of commitment, it takes a lot of field work or some time for laboratory work, which can affect, you know, the teaching hours. Lack of research culture, these are some of the challenges that confront research collaborations. But one of the way forward is having a network collaborative framework between higher education institutions within the region. According to Kujeri and Jamil 2008, they suggested that in their study. Establish or revisit research strategies. So again, it can be back to the strategies that we have in our universities. What should be the priority? What should be the focus? And more collaborative research culture should be developed between colleagues within the region, improve the visibility of GCC research and researchers. So we need to improve the visibility. We need to talk about our research. We need to have forums where people across the world know what we're talking about, and towards open science, like we have also mentioned. And the final theme I had was Research Hub. So I think one of the presentations that I attended also talked about research centers, which is something that I would like, if possible, that is being encouraged. So research and development facilities at the institutional level, research centers, as universities should have research centers, distinguishes high-ranking universities from the rest. So if you look at high-ranking universities, you check out what they have over there, you can find the difference with what we have over there. And we need to, the GCC countries become an attractive destination for academicians. So looking at the diverse multinationals that we have, this is one of the ways that we can tap into the diversity of the region in terms of the workforce, in terms of the expertise, in terms of the knowledge, in terms of the skills, in terms of research. So we have people who have worked in different parts of the world and then they come here. We can maximize their research knowledge and build the research hub that we want the world to know about. So government within the GCC region needs to provide higher support for higher education institutions by funding research and development activities, support research to satisfy high international standards, and formation of research centers. Currently, we have one that is being it's currently in place now at my university, which is something that I hope to see materialize or become a physical center. And in conclusion to my study, the way forward is related to my questions. Again, we should develop sustainable mutual engagement community of practice. Another one is the promote of research community of practice. So we need to promote, we need to talk about it. We need to talk about the different fields that we come from. How do we build communities within different sectors, within different specializations or different programs or different, degrees, so that our students, whatever we have, we can pass it on to the next generation. And finally, potential impact of research collaborations and data sharing. So data sharing is important, but how do we build that? How do we trust that whatever, we have intellectual properties, we have you have claimed whatever you have done and is not being used by someone else without your knowledge and all that. So those are some of the things that I hope will materialize. And thank you so much for listening to my presentation. And yeah, that's it for me. Thank you, everyone.
And now our final paper, not only our final paper of the panel, but very sadly, our final paper of the entire second annual forum is by Dr. Siraj Ali Mohammed of the National University of Science and Technology, Oman, who will be talking to us about building and sustaining communities of practice, specifically among health profession educators in the region. So Dr. Siraj, I will hand over to you. If you would turn on your video and share your screen, we can get started.
Good evening. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome to this session on building and sustaining communities of practice among health professions educators, specific to the region. My name is Siraj. I am the head of the medical education at the College of Medicine and Health Sciences, National University of Science and Technology, and also a global faculty at the F.O.R.M Institute, meant for faculty development at US. It's interesting to note that some of those aspects that were discussed in the previous presentation are going to be revisited again in the context of communities of practice. And as the previous speaker rightly mentioned, community of practice involves people who are a group and they share a concern or passion for something that they do and learn how to do it better as they interact regularly. So obviously there is an interest to enhance performance. Obviously there is a common interest that is shared. And you can see that there are three important aspects that are discussed here. One is the domain. They share a common domain of interest, competence, and commitment that distinguishes them from others. Now, this shared domain creates a common ground, inspires members to participate, which guide their learning and also gives meaning to their action. So that's the first aspect. And when you talk about the second one, that is the community itself, these are members who will actually pursue their interests through their joint activities, discussions, problem-solving opportunities, information sharing, relationship building. The notion of a community creates that social fabric for enabling collective learning. So a strong community fosters interaction and encourages willingness to share ideas. And the third and the most important aspect, we would say, after you have identified the domain and community, would be the practice. So they are actual practitioners in their domain of interest. So, and they build a shared repertoire of resources and ideas that they take back to their practice. So while the domain provides the general area of interest for the community, the practice is the specific focus around which the community is going to develop, going to flourish, and they share and maintain its core of collective knowledge. So with that brief introduction to what exactly is communities of practice, I would like to pose the question as to why are communities important? Well, the 4 C's that we generally relate to communities of practice are connect. It helps people to connect each other or network. It also brings in the context. The context is largely in the way they practice or the domain they are interested in. Capture is there is a lot of interactions that happens and best practices which initiates or which takes us to the next C, that is collaborating. So the communities are important as far as networking is concerned, as far as common interests are concerned, as far as best practices sharing are concerned, and also collaboration for best outcomes. Now, we belong to medical schools, and when it comes to the best outcomes, they are translated into patient outcomes or health outcomes or best community outcomes in terms of health. So it looks for communities of practice that are basically rooted in the firm belief of enhancing health outcomes of people. Now, this is a forum that discusses about open research. So it will be justified if I bring in parallel, how I draw parallel between open research and the communities of practice that I'm talking in relation to the health professions education. And there are numerous intersections that happen at different levels. Obviously, the first one in relation to knowledge is the sharing of knowledge itself. And as we heard from the previous speakers, it has become difficult many a times to have prudent and powerful exchange of knowledge due to a large number of constraints that have come in terms of regulation, in terms of legislation, in terms of legal aspects. But here is an opportunity when you have communities of practice that share very close relationship with open research, is the knowledge sharing that it initiates. It also hinges on to the innovative aspects, innovation that drives actually whatever knowledge that has gathered and puts that into practice and translate into innovation. Research, we heard the previous presentation exclusively focused on research. So again, it's a very important intersection. Information exchange, which is vital for many projects to survive, to thrive, to flourish, it is equally important. Accountability is everything in this. So being transparent, obviously, this is a shared domain. And accessibility, without say it goes, I mean, without it is accessible to the general public, or it is accessible to people who want to pursue science. With that, let me quickly take you through the D's. I just mentioned the C's of communities of practice. I'm just having it in the same alphabets for easy for us to actually assimilate. So steps, design. When I'm talking about design, the design that we have should be, it's meant for evolution. The design of communities of practice in relation to health professions, education, are designed for evolution. And because like any branch of science, medicine is a highly evolving discipline. And hence it is important to design for evolution. What is the next D? It is dialogue. Open dialogue between the inside and the outside perspectives. In every domain, you have this inside and outside perspectives. And I'm sure that people understand this. So the dialogue is the next step. Then comes diversifying it. We must invite people at different levels of participation. The stakeholders, especially in this field, are going to be a range of people, starting from the medical students, other health professions, the patients, the social activists, and a number of other professions that are related to health. So that is diversifying. By diversify, I mean inviting different levels of participation and different stakeholders at different levels. Then comes developing. Developing is community spaces that we're developing. It's communities of practice. So we must develop both public and private community spaces which focus on the values that we actually propagate. By diffusion, what I am trying to express is the combination of familiarity and excitement. So the diffusion is the next step that falls in place. And finally, you discover the rhythm that you create for this community. That's the passion that you have. And because of that, you discover the rhythm, or create the rhythm for the community. Now, you must understand that these design principles are not recipes, but rather they embody our understanding of how elements of designing communities of practice work together. They reveal the thought process behind the design. Making design principle explicit makes it possible to make it more flexible and more improvisational. Well, this has been adapted from a work from what I'm quoting now. Now, let's see the different domains at which it operates. Obviously, the first one being professional development. This is one of the classical frameworks of faculty development, especially in health professions education, proposed by one of the seminal workers in this field, Yvonne Steiner from McGill. And you can see that it happens at formal and informal, it can be either formal, it can be otherwise informal. This is basically, we're talking about the environment or the circumstances. And it can be, it could be individual or it could be group. Now, based on that, if you look, I'm not going to the other aspects of it, but if you look at communities of practice, they are placed under the group and informal. Because though we said that, you can design it, you can have frameworks, it is largely an informal, combinations that exist to build a community. So I just want to bring that in the MENA context and tell you some of those very prominent communities of practice or organizations or groups which basically are involved, or you could say that they represent communities of practice. The first one being F.O.R.M, which most of you are familiar with, and with the headquarters in Philadelphia, and as I already mentioned, I'm a global faculty there, has its own group of fellows scattered worldwide, and there is a communities of practice that exist, especially people who are a part of the health systems and health professionals education in the Middle East. That is a foundation for advancement of international medical education and research. Similarly, you have an organization based in United Kingdom, Association for Medical Education in Europe, which has its own branches and student networks. As far as the Middle East, in the Eastern Mediterranean region, Association for Medical Education in the Eastern Mediterranean region. Now, you can also see that there are country-based ones like the Saudi Society for Medical Education, or the ones that you see in Oman is the Oman Medical Specialty Board, which caters to most of the medical education and, of course, residency-related and continuing professional development-related activities. Another example is the Framework Regional Institutes that function. The one that is here is the ASU, Ain Shams University, Middle East, North Africa, Framework Regional Institute. These are few examples how people have created, communities of practice within organizations. And I would say that it refers to our earlier definition. And while doing this presentation, I was just trying to tweak and see whether these organizations fall under this category. And I would say that I've just chosen some of these based on that. So that was professional development, we said. And the next aspect, as far as an educator is concerned, is curriculum development. And there are enough examples, especially from the COVID time, how communities of practice evolved and created curricula, which basically, was used in different health professions. Now, we mentioned about the knowledge sharing practices that exist and which is akin to the open, research aspects, which is true even in communities of practice. Now, if you look at one of the most commonly and widely accepted curriculum designs, which is the Kern's 6-step cycle, and if you look at most important aspects, starting from problem identification, then going for targeted needs assessment, developing goals and objectives, then you go to identifying educational strategies, learning, evaluation and feedback. Finally, you will see that this 6-step approach, it blends very well to a communities of practice, the way a curriculum can be designed, especially utilizing the strengths of the people who are a part of this community. So we mentioned about, professional development, curriculum development. The third aspect I want to discuss with you is interprofessional collaboration, which happens when people from diverse professions collaborate, especially to enhance health outcomes, So this is the widely accepted interprofessional collaboration competency framework from Canadian Interprofessional Health Collaborative. And you can see that there are very distinct competencies that have been identified. Leave alone the outer regions, if you look inside, it starts with role clarification, and where people are very clear about what roles they're expected to do and what roles they don't have to really step in. Similarly, dealing with interprofessional conflicts is another important aspect. Teamwork and team building is the third one. And most importantly is collaborative leadership, where they formulate, implement, and evaluate care and service to enhance health outcomes. The central goal is interprofessional collaboration, which I'm linking to communities of practice, which is a partnership existing between the health providers. It could be the people from different streams. It could be a medical person, a nursing professional, a dentist, or a physiotherapist, or whatever it may be. But the partnership and a client, in a very participatory and collaborative way, they have a coordinated approach, and they are involved in shared decision making, and it's highly patient-centric. Gone are those days where it is physician-centric, it is patient-centric, and it involves shared decision-making around health and social issues. So one of the best examples that can be quoted for communities of practice. Now, specifically into the region, there are networks that works with Interprofessional Global, which is a global confederation of interprofessional education and collaborative practice. I am a member of the working group, and the research group is Interprofessional Research Global, which again can be ideally called as communities of practice. And what is most fascinating for us is, first time the conference of this group of, interprofessional global associates are coming to Middle East. It's happening in Qatar during the first week of November. So that this is the best example of how actually people celebrate this interprofessional aspects and leadership within the regional context. After having done the interprofessional aspects, let me move on to the global perspectives that are enshrined in this philosophy. So as earlier we mentioned, there is a networking that is global, which the communities of practice, though some of them may have regional intent, you will see that the networking capacities enable people to spread their wings, share their ideas, communicate and collaborate with people all around. Then comes global health, which is an emerging field of medicine, which basically looks into an area of study, research and practice, where you give importance of improving health and also equity among people, patients, and not only people of population around the world, the global health aspects. Now, if you really want to get this into practice, we must bridge the divide between the theory and practice. And that is where formation of policy plays a very important role. And that too related to education, because I'm talking about communities of practice within health professions, educators. And the last picture, I just wanted to signify diversity, which is a very important perspective, how we celebrate diversity and how important it is to celebrate diversity when you have, communities of practice, especially in relation to the global aspects that we were trying to mention to you. Advocacy is a very important aspect, and that is where perhaps we may have to bring in different styles and approaches. I'm referring to the leadership styles, So to lead these communities of practice, it is very difficult to confine and say, look, this is the leadership that works. It is sometimes participatory, sometimes delegatory, sometimes affirmative, sometimes situational, sometimes it is disruptive. But by and large, transactional leaderships and transformative leaderships which are in play seem to have been working in this field as and when the situation demands. And innovation becomes a major effect. Sometimes it is an after effect. Sometimes it's a ripple effect of this specific, what I'm talking about is the communities of practice when they join together. In this context, I just want to share with you one of those important models, the fulcrum. Imagine how the propeller blade, start turning. The wind will pick up the momentum and creates a vortex of innovation, which is fed by, feeding innovations in those 4 domains that you're seeing. The 4 domains are business innovation, learning innovation, technology innovation, organization, and social innovations. So how would technology innovation look when, the organization is learning to engage people in social and learning innovation to support it? How would business innovation look when enterprise learn, when the organization is trying to learn to put in service the combined power of technical, social, and learning innovation? So we see that using these lenses, we see different things when we look at the whole architecture of innovation. And that is what we have onto the right side, the 4, so ecosystem of innovation, how the value flows. So you can see that there are very clear-cut intersections and interactions between the different domains of innovation and with examples. And finally, it is all about quality. So even communities of practice, if they have to sustain, thrive, and obviously if they want to be flourishing, then quality is important. So there must be regular assessments in place, formal and informal, as the community evolves. Now, we have also seen that when it comes to communities of practice of health professional educators, it is very vital to raise awareness on those work that they do, not only to attract people to this domain, but also to see that they keep updated, as the third one is related to continuous improvement. Continuous improvement is a part of, part and parcel of communities of practice. As people evolve and as, new systems develop, as new knowledge develops, as new research emerges, there must be continuous improvement. So, I just want to combine 2 aspects of communities of practice before I end this talk. As Wenger puts it in his pioneer work, communities of practice are groups of people who share a passion for something that they know how to do and to interact regularly to learn how to do it better. A business model takes it into a different level. A group of self-governing people whose practice is aligned with strategic imperatives and are challenged to create shareholder value by generating knowledge and increasing capabilities. And if we were to combine this in the context of educational practices, specifically health professional education, communities of practice are self-organizing and self-governing groups of people, and they have a passion, they share a passion for a common domain of what they do and strive to become better practitioners. So every day is a day of learning for them. They create value for their members and stakeholders. How do they do that? They develop and spread new knowledge, productive capabilities, and foster innovation. And that's where I thought, a talk like this will have some common ground with Open Research and the Open Forum that is hosting this. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm done with my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Siraj, and thank you to all of our speakers. As I said, it's been really interesting, and I think it's a nice way to have this panel last, because it pulls in, we've talked about challenges in achieving policies on the first day and practical examples predominantly in libraries on the second day. And it's nice to finish today, I think, by pulling together the wider communities and how we can support and encourage those communities to grow. So for our delegates, I appreciate you're probably all feeling a little sleepy now. It's been a long 3 days, but while you formulate your questions, and please do put them in the Q&A, I have a question for all the panelists, and I'd very much like it if you would consider discussing this together as a group. Obviously, over the course of this panel, we've very much talked about different challenges and different benefits related to community building and communities of practice, and you've all outlined some different approaches and different priorities. But what I was wondering is, having listened, now that all of you have listened to each other's papers and had a chance to see how those different approaches relate to each of your own individual concepts, what do all of you think is the biggest challenge that we face to building communities of best practice for open science in the region? So the floor is over to you all. If you could turn on your videos and your monitors so we can see you all as the panelists, that would be great. Dr. Siraj, if you could, and Antonia, would it be possible for you to turn on your monitors briefly? Thank you. Floor is yours. Doaa, Dr. Antonia, who wishes to go first?
Okay, I can first.
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, our biggest challenge is our researchers, as we target young researchers, as old researchers don't accept the new practices of open science. We try to raise awareness about the importance of open science. So we try with the young researchers. Actually, we have a good engagement in our launching event. We found many people interested in new practices, want to know more, want to spread the word. Actually, we receive a good feedback, and we received calls from researchers who want to engage and want to have a collaboration with us to learn more about open science and to spread the word about practices of open science.
And Dr. Antonia?
Okay, I think that was also one of the points I had raised in terms of the novice and the expert researchers. There is this gap of not having this synergy between those that have been advanced researchers and those that are coming up. One other thing I think for me would be the knowledge sharing experience. So we know a lot of us are conducting research across different fields, But in terms of accumulating this research and taking it a step forward, I think that's where most of the problem is. Like I've had situations where I have colleagues who have, they have very good research, but the opportunity to talk about the research or to the outcomes of that research. So you have like a research, realize some issues, and you come up with recommendations of things to do, but it stops there. It's like it ends where the recommendation lies and nothing goes on after. So that kind of make people feel like, okay, what's this of talking about my research if there is no action plan, or if nothing goes on after whatever I have taken time to research about. So the research sharing and acceptance of the result is something that I feel there's still a gap. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. And Dr. Siraj?
I think I didn't hear it. Is it the challenges that you were asking?
Yes. Given all three papers and how they come at the issue from different angles, what do you think the biggest challenge is to implementing open science communities in the region?
Yeah, there are many challenges as far as communities of practice are concerned with health professions education. The first thing being the lack of clarity itself. People do not really understand what communities of practice are, so the lack of clarity in the concept itself, I feel, is a big problem. And the second, and the most important one, I feel, the hierarchical structures that are embedded in, and that has a social environment, socio-cultural context. These hierarchical structures impede, anything related to communities of practice. Time constraint is yet another important aspect. Not enough people are ready to invest their time, because this generally doesn't this is something that they do out of their usual, though it is beneficial to people. So to me, I feel it is a lack of clarity. It's about the hierarchical structures that we have in education, and also time constraints for educators that are a big problem.
Okay, brilliant. Does anyone in our audience have any questions? We've still got a bit of time, so don't be shy. Also, do the three of you have any questions for each other? It doesn't just have to be a one-way audience. You are free to talk to each other as well.
I think I have one, just maybe not a question, but probably just my maybe one of the things I mentioned that could be maybe a challenge would be access to data. So access to research data. I think that is something that I think in a way we struggle to get. Like if you're doing a research work and you're trying to get institutions to access data. Like my studies I got the data till 2018. There is actually nothing after, and you're wondering, okay, what's been going on? Is there no recent data and all that? So I think sometimes access to data, and that is the gap that probably research can come in, because that is something that research does in terms of upgrade the data information. So I think institutions need to know that there are researchers who do this. And I think that the gap between the researchers and institutions is actually there, either because they don't really understand what we can do as researchers, or maybe they feel that that is not the work of researchers to do. But I think that's research. If you get data and you get updated information and then you share it back to the institutions, I think that makes it viable, and that's real information you're sharing based on what's there. So the gap in terms of the research that we do and the institutions who need this research, there's still that that connection is still not there. So I don't know what can be the solution, if it's an open question to anyone. How do we bridge this gap between what we do as researchers and the end result, which will be in terms of the implementation of the research?
Does anyone have anything to respond to Dr. Antonio with that? Menna, I know you turned your video on. Was that because you had a comment to make?
Okay, I can. I have some ideas. I think the raising of awareness is the key to researchers to know how to share their data, and the importance of research data. Actually, we have a lack of information here in Egypt too. So research data. Actually, my master's was about research data management in social science and humanities, and I found a very lack of information here in Egypt. So we're trying to raise awareness about the importance of research data. I think this is the key. Here in Egypt, we started to raise awareness about the concepts of research data. Actually, researchers don't know anything about it. But when you say and try to raise the awareness, they start to understand what is the importance of it, and they have to share their data. They don't know. They don't know about the research data repositories, but when they know about it, they know the importance of it and try to share their research data too. So I think the key is raising awareness between researchers. This will take time, but it will work.
Thank you. Does anyone have anything else to add from the group? No? Well, in that case, I'm afraid we might well finish a little early, which is unexpected, I have to say, but I imagine everyone's slightly getting event fatigue. It has been a very, very long 3 days. So once again, thank you to all of our speakers today. I think it's so interesting. I'm really looking forward as well to going through the videos again afterwards and making notes of what everyone's saying for the session. So I think it's given me an awful lot to think about, and I hope our attendees feel the same way. And thank you so much for engaging with us, and in particular, Doaa and Menna, many congratulations on getting the open science community in Egypt off the ground. It's such an impressive achievement, and we're all really excited to see what you do next. And yes, this certainly for our panel, this will wrap up the second annual forum.